Hi, Stuart Bruce here, and I am the Spare Time Property Investor. In these podcasts, I'm going to share tips, tricks, and lessons that I've learned and will hopefully help you, especially if you're still working the 9 to 5. Hi, Stuart Bruce here from the Spare Time Property Investor podcast. In today's episode, I interview Andrew Tonks, also known as the Property Pilot on Instagram. He discusses how he manages to balance his career as an airline pilot and property. He also has another business that he discusses. We talk about the importance of investing long term and also having additional income streams, especially with coronavirus. That really highlights the need to have other sources of income as a protection against, being laid off and things like that. So it's a really interesting episode. And it's also really interesting to hear how he started off as a helicopter pilot in the RAF. So really interesting stuff there. So without wanting to waste any more time, here is the interview. So thanks again for coming on to the podcast, Andrew. And first off, it would be great to hear about your career as an airline pilot and how you managed to balance the property investment around that.
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on, Stuart. I really appreciate it. It's good to chat to you. In terms of my career, well, I did 10 years in the RAF, first of all, as a helicopter pilot, which was great fun. I don't know, we might talk about that later on or not, but always enjoying talking about the military and some of the flying experiences there. But after that, I thought, time to settle down, a bit more family life, orientated work. So I became an airline pilot. It was quite a straightforward transition, although it cost a lot of money, as most people can probably imagine. So I transitioned to that. But fortunately, being an airline pilot, you do work long hours, but you tend to work longer days, but less of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It means that you end up having a little bit more free time than somebody working a 9 till 5, which as a result means actually I have, well, not loads, but a bit of time to do my property work alongside my flying work as well.
So I assume you have blocks of time off then. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes, you normally tend to work between 3 to 6 days in a row. But then you'll have between 2 days to, often a week off in between shifts, because they tend to like to almost own you for sort of up to 6 days, because one day I may be flying to Spain and back, and then they might be short of a pilot flying from another base out of Manchester, so I might go there for a couple of days, or I might go and fly abroad and stay overnight there for a couple of days. So it's quite flexible, and you often find yourself away from home every now and again. And when you're not working, you're never getting called, or you're never getting any phone calls. So it's quite good, if you don't mind sort of turning on to work mode and being at the mercy of the airline, which can be good fun, but can be annoying sometimes. Yeah. But then as soon as you finish your last shift, then they don't call you. You've got.
I was just going to say, so it's never like, the pilot's sick, we needed to get down here, you got an hour to get ready and
well, so you do have that, but that's what's called being on standby, so that'll count as one of those 6 days of work. And again, that can be quite funny, because you can be sat in bed, asleep in bed, get a phone call at 3:30 saying you need to be in work 2 hours later, which is a bit annoying at the time. But then on the flip side, that can be a day of work that you don't get called, and then you have a full day off for free,
So when you've got those patches of time where you're not flying, so do you kind of ahead of time, do you plan what you're going to be doing? Do you make sure you have things set out that you're going to be completing in those days off, or how do you kind of work that?
So I tend to sort of on a Sunday or even as early as a Saturday or Friday evening plan my next next week's top 10 tasks. Uh-huh. And what I'll do, I'll plan, sometimes it's less than 10, sometimes it's a bit more, but I'll plan all of them. And then depending on when I'm flying, I've not been flying much recently due to coronavirus for obvious reasons, but I'm getting busy again now. But what I'll do is when I'm not flying, as long as I've not got family stuff on, I'll then program those events into my days off. So this is my days off work in the airline industry. And then schedule them around then. Sometimes I can do stuff when I'm flying as well, but I might not schedule particularly sensitive stuff that has to get done on that day, because again, you can fly to Cyprus and then get stuck there if you're running late or you have a problem with the aircraft. So I don't know. It's about being flexible and making the most of the free time I do have.
I can imagine you, like, you know, I'm sure you don't do it, but you're like working away on something and think, oh Christ, there's a mountain in front of me, I've got to dodge it. It's nothing like that.
Well, when we're flying, tend to focus on the flying task at hand. But otherwise, I won't be a pilot anymore. I'll probably get sacked.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, do you think it's, you're saying about being in the RAF for a good while as well, and then transferring over to being an airline pilot? But do you think any of those skills that you picked up from, I suppose, the discipline and organisation, everything like that, of being in the RAF and then an airline pilot, some of those skills must kind of transfer into business and property, specifically?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it transfers into all parts of life, I'd say. I mean, in the RAF, in the military, they take you, they could take you, Stuart, today, and they say, right, here's a uniform, Stuart, go and put that on. And then say, right, we're going to go for a run. And what they do is they basically get you really fit and then put you on a very set sort of schedule and routine. And at the time, it feels really annoying and like a waste of time. But being in the military, you get used to operating on a schedule, routine, and you have to pass the fitness test every year as well. And what I found this does is that, although I did still find it annoying at times, and they like you to get up early as well, sort of 4 a.m., 5 a.m. starts.
Oh, God. That's very early.
Yeah, but what I found, though, is actually, you do get a lot more stuff done, if you've got I try and do this now, so I try and wake up, I'll go for a run or do some exercise most mornings, and then, I've got a sort of set routine where I'll do my journal, plan the rest of the day, and then do any key tasks, ideally before the rest of the world wakes up. I mean, I don't wake up at 5 a.m, I'm not crazy, and I've got a little baby. I grab what sleep I can.
Of course.
I tend to get up, this morning I got up about 6:15, did a few bits, and then went for a 7:15. But I think that comes from the military, just because they like you to wake up early. They like to have, as set a routine or schedule as you can, because I don't know, I just find it, well, they find and I find it helps you get more achieved in the day.
Yeah. I love that early part of the morning as well, because you can control it as much as more than any other part of the day. So yeah. I get up relatively early. I don't do the 5 a.m. thing.
Not interested in that.
But, I get up and get, my exercise and stuff away. It's a similar sort of thing. But you can control it, because, like, once you start getting to work and, start interacting with people, anything can happen, can't it? So it all kind of goes up.
Well, you can have your day planned and it just gets turned upside down.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, I mean, I think in general, those kind of, whether or not it's from being in the RAF or be it kind of getting the discipline from that end, or just kind of come into it from a different angle, I think it is really, really important or helpful to have that kind of start of the day really a little bit regimented, so you get the most out of it and get some, of those key bits of work done, and keep on top of your health as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I fully agree, and I think especially during the past few months as well, it's really helped me sort of stay on track and quite a bit, because it's difficult. Otherwise, you may just find yourself waking up and then just lying on the sofa all day doing nothing.
Yeah, getting fat and all that sort of, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the coronavirus, and that must have really affected you as a pilot, because obviously, I mean, everyone can see the skies have been empty for months. I mean, it's starting to pick up again, but that must have really affected your work.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for me, I've been at my airline for a few years now, for 2.5 years, so my job is safe at the moment. I've had some friends who've been unfortunately lost their work, but I mean, it's really highlighted to me and people that I know that actually, no job is safe, so it's worthwhile having that extra stream of income.
Yeah.
So, I mean, negatively, I've been quiet on flying, although I'm about to start flying again over the next few weeks, which is quite exciting. But on the positive, it's meant that I could actually focus more on the property side of business and my other business, which is an online clothing business as well. So I've actually found myself probably busier than I would have been if I was flying normally.
Yeah, I think in your email you mentioned the clothing business. Tell me more about
that. So it feels like a game at times. This clothing business. It's what's called print on demand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I do it with my best man, which is nice. It means we stay in touch. But essentially, we've probably got about 10,000 different products online.
Okay.
But it's all printed stuff. So you know, Stuart, you might be like, oh, I like chatting to Andrew. I want to buy a Future Pilot T-shirt from Amazon. So you'll go on Amazon, search Future Pilot T-shirt. Our T-shirt pops up. It doesn't exist at the moment. You click buy on Amazon, and then that sends a message to their factory. They print it, package it, send it out to you by Prime, and then we might make maybe £5 from that. Whereas normally, if you did it yourself and had all the stock in place, you might make a bit more money. But there's a lot more work, so it's a very risk-free business.
I've heard,
and it works well.
I think, yeah, my wife's brother has done a bit of that, I think. I'm sure he has actually. Yeah, and you don't have to worry about warehouse space. You don't need to worry about you know, the risk of getting thousands of pounds worth of stock that might not sell. You know, it's a really smart business move. I like it. I like that idea a lot. So how long has that been going?
That'll be 2 years in September. That's been going. It's almost 2 years now, in fact. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we've been doing it for a while. It's really ramped up over the last sort of 9 months.
Oh, great. That's really good.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like a game, and some of the stuff we sell is quite comical. I mean, at the moment, our biggest seller is a sloth in a kayak.
Okay.
But people are buying them. So.
Yeah. So you've got that, and then you've got your properties as well. So you've got, I assume, you've got you know, properties that you own. I had a look on your website, and you also do work for other investors and things like that. So how do you kind of balance those two elements of the property side of your world?
So there's kind of two sides to it. The first and original side is me buying properties in my company. I've used investors to help me out with that. I've also got a couple of JVs as well with sort of long-term friend investors who don't really have the time or the experience really. So I've teamed up with them for a couple of things. But mainly it's just me buying properties in my company, refurbishing them, and then refinancing them, and then paying back the investors. Although I'm not really doing as much of that right now, just because I think the market's a bit too hot at the moment. The prices are too high.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting ready to see what happens, and if a good deal pops up, I'll buy that. So that's one side of the property business, and then the other side, because I was looking for so many deals, I ended up coming across a lot of property deals. So I actually started helping investors take them on themselves separately. So, I mean, it's called deal sourcing or deal packaging. You know what that is, but for the audience, it's basically me finding an investment deal and then almost acting as a middleman or agent between the vendor and an investor who wants to take on that deal.
Oh, great. Yeah. So that's really good. And I suppose it diversifies it. I think as well with that, I think sometimes if you're just buying properties for yourself, I think it's a temptation to get the next one, even when the market isn't right.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can manage for the people, you know, kind of source deals onto people and things like that, I think that's a really good way of working. Yeah, I think the market is a bit strange at the moment, personally. I mean, I think it's people have got straight out of the blocks, didn't they? As soon as they get back into the estate agents and started buying things, I'm just not convinced. I think it's, especially with the furlough scheme coming to an end very soon.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. I just think, if you find a good deal or you're buying long term, or you've got loads of money, fair enough. I just think it's a bit risky at the moment. I would personally, I'm not looking to buy anything unless I see the deal of the century. I think I'm in the same position. I keep on looking at stuff and just thinking, just doesn't quite add up. And but I'm getting a bit itchy. I'm just, I want to likewise. Well, I just had a deal fall through, so it's like we've got the money in the bank ready to go.
We were going to get something just before Corona kicked in. So we've had the money sat there all that time. It's just like it's burning a hole in our bank account. But I don't want to do something stupid, So it's always tricky, isn't it? Cool. Okay. So what originally sparked your interest in property?
So my dad was an accidental landlord.
Oh, okay.
He worked for himself, and then I think had a bit of spare money, so bought a couple of properties. And I always thought it was quite cool, go around there and see because one was a mixed use. He had like it was a HMO. I don't know if HMOs existed back then officially, but it was a mixed use. It had a curry shop, takeaway down below, and a HMO up top. But I'm pretty certain the tenants, like, he used to go around and there was a really strong smell of weed. He always got paid in cash. I mean, I thought it was quite funny at the time. But looking back, I'm thinking, no wonder, he often had late payments or difficulties with tenants. Somehow that got me interested in it. And then also my wife, at the time girlfriend, she was always interested as well. So we just talked about it a lot. And then I think 2013, we bought our first investment property, which, and kind of haven't really looked back since then.
That's great. That's really cool. I think it must be, I hear that a lot actually, people who've had a family member, an uncle or a dad or whatever, who had an investment property. They're not normally like fantastic, but I mean, it must have been great to have been around it as a kid, just to see it as a thing that you can actually do.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I suppose the positive from there is that they ended up selling that property to the guys at the takeaway shop. And then that funded like their sort of retirement home in the Lake District. So although he was an accidental landlord and a very amateur one, I'm sure he didn't do it himself, it did work out well in the long term. So, I guess I thought, actually it can be worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things, I think people like myself included, I get so hung up on trying to learn all the nitty gritty about exactly what to do and things like that. But people buy properties and, they might not be fantastic to start off with, but as long as you hold on to them for 20, 30, 40 years, I mean, it does the trick, doesn't it?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, I think if you buy a property, and so long as you don't have to sell it, or so long as you're not forced to sell it within a year or two, you know what, you might make some mistakes, but you bought a property, if you made mistakes, learn from them, then actually, it will work out in the long term. Because if you look at all the guys who are really successful, they've all held on to property for years and years and years, and then done something with it. There's always something to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that your strategy, to hold on to stuff long term, or?
Yeah, so most of what I'm doing is long term buy and hold. I've got a couple of rent-to-rent properties, which I got a few years ago when I was doing a bit more training and sort of expanding aggressively, so to say. But I'm gradually giving them back because although they're okay and make some money, actually I think that I'd rather sort of buy stuff that needs a refurbishment, do it up, refinance, and hold on to them, for long-term wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereabouts do you invest?
So I'm based in North London, but hopefully you can tell from the accent I'm from Manchester. I don't know, it's gradually going. I've been down south now for 15, 16 years.
I bet when you go back up to Manchester, I bet they think you're right southerner now.
Yeah, they're like, when did you come up? And I'm like, I'm from around the corner. I'm like, no, you're not, you're from London, mate.
Yeah.
I don't really fit in anywhere. But all the properties that I own in my personal name or in the company are all in and around Greater Manchester, and that's what I probably continue investing, just because I know the area. I've got a good power team up there, and it makes sense. And also, the most recent thing I bought in Manchester, what was that? Bought a 6-bed HMO.
Okay.
And that was, I can't remember now. That was 175,000.
Wow.
Whereas the equivalent in London would be, I mean, God knows, 800,000, 700, 900 maybe. It's a no-brainer.
So did you buy that as a 6-bed HMO, or did you buy it and then convert it into a 6-bed?
That one was bought as a tired 6-bed HMO.
Okay.
So we're just finishing off. We bought that literally as the lockdown kicked in. So we've just filled the final room. Although it was okay. Like we got most rooms filled pretty quickly, but we just filled the final one now, having done a few works to sort of refresh it a little bit.
Yeah. So how did you manage it over the coronavirus then? Did you have to just put a hold on it for a little while?
So that one, yeah. So we did get a few tenants in because some of the rooms were okay. We managed to sort some of them out. So we had some tenants in some of them, and then the others we just did what we could, to be honest. But thankfully, it covered itself for then. And then in the last few months, we managed to sort of do the work that was required, and it should be good from now on.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people, a few I've spoken to where they had a deal bare bones right at the coronavirus kicking in.
Or
Couldn't get plaster, couldn't get tradespeople in, nothing. And that must have been so painful. Just kind of seeing it sitting there, just thinking,
and still having to pay that mortgage, or finance for investors. Yeah, it's tough. I think it's affected a lot of people badly, but I guess it's just if you can survive and learn from it, then hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Fingers crossed. So going back to the first property you got then, first investment property, did you do any training before you got the first one, or did you just kind of jump in?
So that one, I did a weekend course with, I can't remember who it was, Jill Fielding Financial, I think it was. I did a weekend course with them. It was a big sales pitch, but I did get something out of it. And then bought a house in Gorton in Manchester, which for those who know is at best an average area. I mean, I don't really like walking around there much, but bought a house there, £58,000 on a mortgage, and that was actually funded from money that I saved up whilst I was in Afghanistan in the RAF. So that's quite good. But yeah, we bought that. I turned up to pick up the keys, thinking, oh yeah, great, this will be filled in a week. And it was an absolute, I don't want to swear, but it was awful inside. It took me about 7 hours to clear up the rubbish, and then another few weeks to get sort of the paint to decorate to clear it up. But to be fair, we had a tenant in there within 4 or 5 weeks, and then we ended up owning the property for 4 or 5 years maybe. But we only had 1 day of voids in that period. So right. Yeah, bought it for 58,000. I think we spent maybe 1,000 doing it up.
Okay.
And I can't remember what I sold it for. I think it was around about 80.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that's really good.
So, and he only really sold it just because the area wasn't long term a good area. But yeah, it made a bit of money. It was a really good learning experience as well. So
yeah.
But that's the only one. And that's the only one that I've sold. Apart from that, I've kept every other one because I like to think I've done it a bit more professionally since then because I had a bit more training, what I'm doing better now as well.
So what training have you gone on to then? Seeing as you kind of mentioned it.
So I've read loads of books, done a couple of online courses, and then I did a year-long course, Property Investor Network Mastermind course with Pam Zucci.
I think I saw a video of you actually. Come to think of it.
Yeah, no, I did okay on that. So I was one of the top performers. So if you go on YouTube, you can probably find a video.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. Yeah.
So that was in 2017. I mean, the main reason I did that is because I handed my notice into the RAF, and you have to give a year-long's notice. And I was going to train as an airline pilot, but didn't have a job lined up. So I thought, okay, maybe I should have a backup. Maybe I should take the property a bit more seriously. So whilst doing my airline pilot training, also sort of did more property investors training as well as a backup. Yeah, that was 2017. And then since then, I've done 2 or 3 different strategies, sort of based on what I learned on that course and what I've learned since.
Great, yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's something that I think a lot of people will benefit from. Is even once you've got a view and you've done, you've seen properties through to them being rented out and selling them and doing that sort of business, it's always good to kind of keep on learning and developing and keep on kind of going back to that training and things like that, because nobody knows everything, and you can always kind of benefit from all those extra kind of those tidbits of advice and training and that. Did you feel you benefited from the networking from that as well?
Yeah, I think the funny thing is that I spoke to someone about this recently, and it was a guy who's also done the course, and he like me was experienced before going on it, and we both agreed that we did learn some stuff property-wise, but not loads. But actually, the main thing that we did get from it was the network.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because I mean, the course did cost quite a bit of money, but I've had way more back, monetary-wise, network-wise, experience-wise, all the things combined is worth way more than I paid for it. And I'm still in touch with a lot of people I met on that course, and a lot of people I've I've been in touch with as a result of going on that course. So yeah, no, it really was worthwhile.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that. A lot of people say about how much they benefited from training courses and things like that, but also the network they've gained from doing it has kind of stayed with them for years and years and years after. So it's obviously really beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. What would be your what would you say your favourite deal has been so far? Have you got one or?
I've got two. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
One is one that I bought, and then the other one is one that I sort of like deal packaged. If you're happy for me to share them. So the first one I bought, it was just a single let rent. There were two ex-homeless guys living there, and it was in a bit of a state. Someone was selling it by auction, but I made a cheeky pre-auction offer having viewed it. And then that went ahead. And I mean, the funny thing is that I was on holiday in Barbados with my family because it's my mum and dad's anniversary. So they took us out there.
Nice.
But we had to exchange whilst there. So I was in this nice villa in Barbados, scanning documents that I printed out around the corner on my phone, calling the solicitor via WhatsApp, which wasn't very good back then. And I was just stressing all over the place. But eventually I managed to exchange whilst out there and then get it completed a month later. But I mean, the good thing over there is that, I mean, the numbers on it, we bought it for 42,500 plus a couple of grand auction fees. So I mean, not a very expensive property. I got private bidding on that from a guy that I know who does private bidding. Spent about 4 or 5 grand doing it up, and then I think 7 or 8 months later refurbished it, and the valuation came in at 77,500.
Very nice.
So, I mean, I think I might have left a few hundred quid in there, or maybe 1,000.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that, actually. I can't remember. I basically pulled out more or less all of the money. And I've not done this since I've tried to. But on that one, it actually worked. So it was quite a nice deal. I mean, and also the good thing, these 2 ex-homeless guys, actually, they're still there. We actually, we gave them a nice home to live in. They pay their rent every month. It's been a really good investment, to be fair. So
that's right. That's great. And it's nice to hear, there's the kind of people element to it as well. They're still there and they're kind of they've benefited from it because it sounded like they're living where it wasn't particularly nice before. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, so I really like that one. I hope I keep it on forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sounds good. And what was the other one? What was the other favourite deal?
Oh, so the other one was it was a portfolio of 11 properties in Yorkshire. That landlord, we sent out some landlord letters, and the guys who owned them wanted to sell. We tried to sell. This must have been about a year and a half ago, and I'd not really done loads of deal sourcing since at that time. I didn't really have that many contacts. Put loads of work into it, and just nothing came of it after about 3 or 4 months of work. Which was annoying. But then about a year later, I just sent a follow-up email to them saying, "Hey guys, how's it going? Are the properties still available?" And in the meantime, I'd done a lot more deal sourcing. I do quite a bit of social media, that sort of stuff. So I had a much bigger contact list, and also my processes were much more refined.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, we're interested in selling still. Let me know what you can do. I ended up splitting up the portfolio. So 2 of them I sold to an investor as purchase lease options. And then the other 9 I sold to an investment fund who were taking them on for social housing.
Okay.
But I mean, that only completed, I think, in June. That exchange just before coronavirus kicked in, which was good, but then there was no guarantee it's ever going to complete.
Yeah. That's great.
I mean, that one, I made some money from that, helped out the landlords because they were a bit tired. And actually it just showed how powerful following up is, because that was an 11 property deal I'd pretty much given up on. And then again, I think I might have been on holiday when I sent them an email, follow up, just saying, "Hey, how's it going?"
Just sounds like
so yeah, I mean, and follow up. Everyone says follow up. The sales and the follow up, and that, often you ignore it, but it really is true.
No, absolutely, and that's amazing as well. You ended up with that portfolio to work with, and it must have been really interesting to figure out how to split it up and what kind of strategies you could use on different, like the 2 and then the other
Yeah.
9. That must have been really interesting.
No, it really
And
was. And I think that was just from gaining more experience of sort of selling on deals. I worked out the best way to position that.
And you say that when you came back to it, you were a bit more refined. You had your processes all set out and stuff like that as well. So it's obviously the follow up, but continuous, perfecting things and refining things and everything like that as well. So you're putting in the work all the time, and then you're able to kind of
exactly that.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So I mean that's a really interesting one. So you sold on the purchase lease options as the sourcing. That's really cool.
Yeah, 2 of them. And I thought about keeping them myself, but it was just outside my area, and I'm quite firm on where I'll buy or take on purchase lease options, just because I've got my team up in Manchester. I'd rather stick to where I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I personally like that as well, in terms of keeping to an area you really know well. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think people get distracted by different areas quite easily as well. They kind of think, Liverpool.
Yeah, you look at the numbers, I think, that'll rent really well. That's really cheap.
Yeah.
And there's normally a reason why, unless you know your area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay. So have you got tips for people to help them invest around a job? I'm thinking you're probably going to be quite good at this, because you must have to do things. Well, you've already said it. You've completed on deals when you're on holiday and things like that. But you must have to deal with things when you're the other side of the world and things like that all the time.
So yeah, what's the top tips on working around the job?
Yeah.
So yeah, 3 or 4. I mean, one of them we talked about, but I'd say schedule your week in advance. Because I think it just dropped off. Sorry. Okay, I think yeah, the top tip. Yeah, my top tips around sort of investing or working around your job. I've already mentioned it, but I'd say schedule your week. So look at where you're going to have free time. Pick your tasks in advance, and then set them aside for those periods of time that you're free. Because otherwise, if you just sort of go ad hoc, you'll never get anything done. And within that schedule, I'd set yourself a sort of weekly, monthly, 3 monthly, yearly goals. Because again, I mean, I'm doing my fitness at the moment. I'm doing loads of running, and I mean, it's not really business-wise, but it helps me keep a clear mind. So I'm doing a lot of running. I've set myself a 5K target pace. But if you've got something set towards, for example, in property, you might want to buy 1 new property this year. If you have that as a yearly goal, and then your 3 monthly goal is to put 5 offers in, and then your 1 week goal is to call 20 agents, for example. If you have a goal, break it down, and then allocate that into your week. Then that'll help you. The other one is have a good team around you, and especially because I'm away a lot, or I might be flying and I can't answer the phone as well. I don't have any signal. I've got a few guys I work with deal sourcing wise. I've got a VA who sends out investment deals for me.
Okay. And
I've also got a couple of really good letting agents who manage all my properties. So that I know that actually, if I'm away flying or I'm looking after the baby, they can take care of business for me, so that I can come back to it as required. And then finally, I think that might be 4 if I say one more. But I think the other one as well is, I mean, I'm guilty of this. I work too hard, I think, most of the time. I say take breaks. Because you need to do it for something, right? If it's all work and no play, what's the point?
Yeah.
I've got an 11-month-old son and wife, friends and family. So I think it's important to, do take some downtime to, watch TV, go on holiday, just go out for dinner, just chill out. Because otherwise, you might earn loads of money, or you might be really successful. But if you're doing that and you've got no family and no friends and no one to enjoy it with, what's the point?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's so difficult as well, because there's always more to do. Yeah. You could just keep on going and going and going, couldn't you? And I'm definitely guilty of that. So yeah, no, you're bang on with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I need to listen to myself, because often I don't get told off on my wife.
I keep we haven't really thought about going on holiday until recently, because of Corona and stuff, and we're kind of very much like we'll leave it until we know it's really safe and stuff like that. But then my wife's been talking about going on holiday, and I'm just like, Yeah, right. Sounds like a good idea. Just to get away from it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay. The top business or property books that you really enjoyed or kind of got a lot from?
Yes, there's quite a few, but most people probably name the normal. I mean, what the normal ones like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Compound Effect. They're all good, but my favourite book, and it's not really a property book, but you get a lot out of it about sort of goals and living the life you want to live. Is a book called The Alchemist.
Okay. Not heard of that one.
What's the author called? Pablo Coelho, I think it's called. Let me have a look. So I get this right. It's one of the top-selling books in the world.
Okay.
But it's a really nice story, like I said, about following your path and trying to live your dreams. Paulo Coelho. It's cool. I mean, yeah, I've just gone on Amazon now. It's got 23,100 reviews.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, The Alchemist. It says The Alchemist. I didn't even know this bit. The sort of following bit. It says a fable about following your dream.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
But it's a really nice story, and just there's loads of good lessons there.
Yeah.
And it just sort of makes you think about what's important, what you want to do with yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than the typical self-help book of be better, do more, stop being lazy.
And it's like, I think they've got their place, but yeah. No, it is nice to get the flip side sometimes. Definitely.
I'd recommend everyone check that book. I always give it to people as a Christmas present. They probably think, oh, what's this rubbish? But it is good.
Okay, I'll check it out. That sounds good. Cool. Okay. Have you got any top pieces of software or tools that you always kind of rely on?
So the main three, I use it 2 or 3 all daily at the moment. MailChimp I use a lot for sending out investment deals to investors, because we've got a big mailing list on that. And I was doing it sort of manually previously when I had about 30 investors on my list, but I've got loads more now. So MailChimp just does that automatically for me, which is good. Then also Trello, most people probably know about that, but we use that just to keep track of investments, deals, any work that's going on. So that's quite good. And the mobile app's doing that. But probably my favourite app is one called Todoist. So I talked about scheduling, scheduling my weekend tasks. And it's basically just a to-do list, hence the name Todoist. But every day I've got my normal 5 on there, which is like stretching, drink 2 litres of water. What else have I got on there? Be 5 minutes early because I'm always late. I've got my normal tasks, but then also my other weekly tasks will go on there. So I mean, at the moment, this talk was on there for today, so that's one ticked off. I've still got 8 things to do today, but 2 of them are old ones, which makes me feel bad. So I find this app Todoist is excellent for sort of getting stuff done because it's in your face.
Yeah.
Noisier. So no, that's good.
I've not heard of that one. I'm going to check that out as well. It sounds really good.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's just good for getting your job list done and reminding you need to do things.
Yeah. I'm terrible for setting myself loads and loads of stuff, too many, and then just kind of shifting it back a day, and then it just kind of piles up.
Yeah, so, try this app and you'll start getting annoyed with yourself.
Yeah, I'll try it. That sounds really good. Cool. Okay, so this is I don't know work for you because it sounds like, did you go straight into the RAF from being a kind of a kid?
No, I went to university at Southampton and did engineering.
Oh, okay. So then do you go from that into the RAF, or did you have?
Yeah.
Okay. This might not work for you. But right. I'm convinced that I've probably had the worst job or jobs out of the people I speak to on the podcast, because I was a musician for a while, and when you're a musician, you do any rubbish job to just kind of fill the gaps. So I've done everything. I mean, I did a day on the bins, being a bin man. I worked in a sweet factory, which is much worse than it sounds. You have to knead molten sugar, or they're pouring acid on it, and loads and loads of rubbish jobs like that. So my challenge to you is, what is the worst job you've ever had?
So I've had a lot of jobs, especially during uni and just before uni.
Oh, okay.
I always like to be doing 2 or 3 at once if I could. I don't know, maybe I think as a kid I might have been a bit money hungry. I like saving my money when I was a kid, so I was better at saving then than I am now. But I've done some awful ones. Pot wash, that was pretty bad. What else was bad? Working supermarket tills, I didn't like that. But one which came to mind, so this was a very rewarding job, but there were some awful aspects of it. So for about a year, in my second year of sixth form college and during my year out, I was an auxiliary nurse. So basically, you just help out. You're like a nurse. You're like an untrained nurse or a very basic trained nurse in a hospital. So I did that for about a year. About a year and a half, I did that, and it is very rewarding because you're helping out lots of old people in a cancer hospital. But one of our main tasks was, and obviously, these people were quite sick.
Yeah.
Was looking after all the needs of the patients. So I won't go into too many details, but in particular, bathroom and toilet needs.
Yeah.
That's on hand for them, literally.
I think you might have beat me.
Yeah, sort of 18, 19-year-old in a hospital, helping clean up people's mess. It was a bit unpleasant at times, but that was the worst part of the job. Everything else of it was very rewarding, but that side of it was horrible.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, fair play to you though. Fair play to you for doing it when you're younger. I think there's a lot of people like me, like squeamish. Fair play to you. But
my mate's mum worked in the hospital, was like a sister at the hospital and got us a job. And we're like, oh, brilliant, sounds great. And then we find out what we're doing. Oh God, this could be interesting. But it was. I kept at it, so I can't complain too much.
No. Like you say, it must have been rewarding, but some elements of it must have been
horrible.
Very difficult. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I think you've come closest. You've come closest to the top.
Yeah, like I said, it had good points and bad. I think the bad points were awful, but the good points were good. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's just a mix.
Yeah. I mean, I work in my day job is adult social care, and I work in the kind of setting up the packages sort of side of things, the assessments and making sure that people do their jobs properly. I kind of supervise social workers and stuff like that. And whenever I've been into like res homes and stuff like that, you just think actually you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, those people do, yeah.
Really, really do. And you kind of think, people on the real front end doing that sort of thing, you kind of think, well, hats off.
Yeah, it's like proper frontline work, that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't fancy it. Cool. The next question is, if you could speak to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give them?
So I would say, best bit of advice, obviously, if you've got a dream I want to be a pilot, but if you want to be a doctor or, God knows, you just want to be a nurse or work in an office or be an accountant, I would say, follow your dream or your goal. But I'd also say, in the background, always be thinking about that, second or third stream of income. Because especially with what's happened over the past few months, it just shows you that, not many jobs are 100% safe and you don't know what could happen. So actually, I'd say from 18, start building that side business or that extra income stream so that, in the long term, if the worst happens, you've actually got something else to fall back on. Or, it just means that it's something to give you a bit more choice and freedom later down the line.
That's a cracking piece of advice. This must have woken a lot of people up to how fragile their position is if they're relying on one income stream. Yeah. You just think, wow,
No, it's scary.
It's standard, isn't it? Yeah, you just kind of think it's really, really difficult, and the rug can just be pulled out from under you at any point.
Yeah, you really don't have that much control. I'd say the one place actually, like where I've just come from, the military, that is generally pretty secure. But there's not many places like that where you've got a job for life, effectively.
Yeah, there's not many, is there? There's not many areas. So no, it's a really cracking piece of advice. I mean, imagine, I'd have loved to have had that kind of, although I don't know if I'd have listened to it. But
I would have been like, whatever, mate. What do you know, old boy?
Yeah, just to get a few things going when you're younger and let them kind of build up and
I mean, because I mentioned that book earlier, Compound Effect. That's a good one to check out or watch a YouTube video because it gets read out on there. But I'm 36 now. If 18 years ago, if halfway through my life ago I'd started doing property or any other business, I'm sure by now it would have been flying. I would have been doing really well.
Absolutely. That's great. Cool. Okay. Well, that's the interview. So it'd be great to kind of catch up, see what you're doing maybe in a year's time or something like that. But for other people, how can they, what's the best way of them kind of keeping in touch with you, seeing what you're up to, what websites or social media is the better kind of reach you?
I'd say find me on Instagram, Andrew Tonks, or I call myself the Property Pilot, a bit cheesy, but find me on there if you're interested in sort of property, fitness, me messing around with my son. I'm also on Facebook as well, and I've actually just recently set up a Facebook group. So recent I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's UK Property Deals, I think it's called, Andrew Tonks. But just connect with me on Facebook or Instagram, and we can network and catch up there if needed.
That's great. Cool. I'll make sure the links are in the notes so people can find them. So.
Yeah, great.
So that's it. Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat with me. It's been really interesting. And I'll see you again.
No, sounds good, Stuart. Really enjoyed that.
My wife has a question for you. How safe is it to travel on a plane regarding Corona?
Very safe.
Very safe. She made us so happy.
Because the HEPA filters in the air conditioning systems basically filter all the air.
You made us happy.
Thank you.
That's fine.
No, well, yeah.
Everyone's asking me that question, so don't worry about it.
So that's the interview with Andrew Tonks. I'm sure you can agree, a really interesting guy, done a lot of different stuff, from being a helicopter pilot in the RAF to an airline pilot, and invested in property as well. So yeah, really great stuff. Sorry, my dog's just joined us. So that's it from me this week. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a 5-star review to help other people find it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.